Hello, punters, and welcome back to another Saturday racing preview. Obviously, with the Flemington races tomorrow, looking at finals day. So I do apologise for obviously not uploading the last couple of weeks. Those of you who do follow me on social media would have been well aware that I was having a couple of weeks off from posting these previews for each Thursday or Friday ahead of the Saturday meetings that I have been doing over the last sort of few months prior to the last few weeks off. So yeah, I do apologise that if any of you were coming to my channel looking for the previews and couldn't find them and weren't sure of why. So I was going to post it in a video, obviously, like a couple of weeks ago when I was going to do a review, but I didn't get the time to post it. So I do apologise for that. But we're back now. We're refreshed. We've had a bit of a spell in the paddock, as we say in the horses. But we're going to come in fresh, ready to go. Find plenty of winners, and we're going to lead strongly into the spring. And obviously, really good spring carnival ahead. We're really looking forward to that. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be back. Going to be, like I said, uploading every single Thursday or Friday, depending on when I sort of get the time to fit them in. More than likely Thursday. I usually don't like uploading on Thursday just because there's obviously scratchings that usually come out of the race, sort of, but sometimes on Fridays. So usually Friday's the time I like to do it, but I've been finding recently that I haven't been having as much time with work on Fridays. So I think Thursday might be the day that I upload, and possibly means that more of you can see it. So I think that's what I might try and aim for from now on. Just beware that obviously when there is scratchings, if I have something as a first place getter, and it gets scratched, then obviously going to bump my numbers up. And what I will do is I'll sort of name a couple that are sort of around the outside my top four that I do think are good chances. So obviously just sort of you can figure those into the numbers if obviously I have selections in my numbers that get scratched. So we'll play it as it comes, really. Obviously keep an eye on my social media page where I do post my tips on Saturday morning. So obviously I do update everything with the scratchings, obviously then the quaddy selections as well. So keep an eye out for that. But look, getting into tomorrow, really looking forward to it. And like I said, stay tuned. I'm going to be posting every single week, and also got some really good interviews coming up as well. I've got one in particular that I'm hoping to get from the UK. And if you international racing fans out there, I'm sure you'll absolutely love that interview. We're going to be talking all things UK and Irish, English racing. So really looking forward to it. And obviously looking at some of the runners potentially for the Melbourne Cup this year, if they're allowed to travel. Obviously at this stage, a little conjecture on whether that will be possible or not. We'll just see what the UK trainers are doing. So without further ado, we'll get straight into the video and the Flemington races. All right, so the first on the card tomorrow at Flemington, obviously looking at a soft 5 track on Saturday. My apologies, not tomorrow. Used to doing it on Fridays. So, but yeah, first on the card on soft track on Saturday at Flemington, looking at the 2-year-old race, 1200-meter race. It's the Sprint Series final. So obviously a few of these have clashed before, and that will be the case with a lot of the meetings. So it'll be real interesting to see if any of the form stands up, which I do think it will do in some races, or if there's others that sort of come in with that different form lines that could perhaps take it off the ones with the exposed form. So look at the first race on the card and look at the speed map for this race here. I'd suggest that we'll probably have the Fallon. I love the game. Obviously, it was up towards On Speed on its Sandown debut, so I'd suggest it'll be up there as well. Ultimate Man and Savannah Cloud will also be up there towards the pace. I don't think they'll be challenging the lead, but they'll definitely be probably up on the speed somewhere. Now, look, I'm pretty keen to place number 3 Standoff here at the $9.50. I think it's a really good price. Now, this is a horse that obviously won really well first up here at Flemington a couple of weeks ago. Beats the likes of Sunshines on that day. And obviously a few of these horses come out of that same race that obviously Standoff won there. And I thought that was a really impressive performance. Then it went out last start at Sand and the Hillside track. Got beaten by I Love the Game, who of course was on debut on that occasion, and also got beat by Ultimate Man. But only finished 1.1 lengths off them. And the race there was really dictated to suit the leaders. They went on a really slow gallop up front. And Standoff was able to really come to the line strongly late. Took a while to pick up and get going, but really did hit the line strongly. It was the favourite on that occasion. So how many times do we see them sort of get strongly backed, jump as favourites one start, and they go out the bigger odds the next start and perform and win? So I think that's going to be the way to go here. Damon Oliver, of course, in the saddle, comes back to Flemington onto a soft track. I think that this horse can bounce back and win. So I'm going to have it on top at the $9.50. Ahead of number 2, I Love the Game, who was very good in that debut performance. Of course, did obviously get the better of the one that I've got on top in Standoff. And looks to have a bit of improvement as well. Was pretty solidly backed off a nice jump out the start prior to that as well. So really a horse to watch who could have a bit of ability. Obviously, we've seen some really good horses come out with these colours for Greg Urell. So we definitely want to be keeping an eye on it. Number 6, Sense of Humour, in for third. Just thought it was a little bit under the odds, this horse, at $2.70. I think it's got a lot of ability and was a good performance last start at Moonee Valley, where it finished fourth, and was a little bit difficult to make ground on that day, albeit at Moonee Valley. So you can sense that this horse did come from towards the back of the field, which was a nice run. So I do forgive that performance and think it can bounce back here against the wide open track of Flemington. Could see immense improvement from it. Just thought 270 is a bit under the odds, so it goes in for third for me. And then even fourth, number 1, Jabali Ridge, who has been running well enough. I don't know if it'll be able to get the better of some of these ones that I've got in front of it, but last start fifth to Crosshaven. I'll enjoy that same race as Sense of Humour, Sense of Honour, sorry, of course. And but looking at it here, I mean, you don't have a whole lot between them. Last start, Jabali Ridge finished 1.1 lengths off the leader, and Sense of Honour finished 1 length off the winner. So they only finished 0.1 of a length between them, and one's 270, one's 550. So a bit of a price discrepancy there that I don't think's right. That's why I thought Sense of Honour was just a bit under the odds. But the key thing for me with Jabali Ridge is that Damien Oliver has ridden at its last 2 starts, and he now jumps on to Standoff. So that's what I also have a really big tick for Standoff. So recapping the numbers in the first, I do think the Standoff will be hard to beat here. I think $9.50 is a great price. I'm going to have it on top. Ahead of number 2, I Love the Game. And for second, I think that's the right form line for this type of race. In for third, number 6, Sense of Honour. And in for fourth, number 1, Jabali Ridge. The other horse that I don't mind in the race is the number 4, the Fallon, who was a good win first up on the synthetic track at obviously Racing.com Park at Pakenham. It was a real good win there, and I think it could potentially make some improvement off of that performance. And obviously Michael Rod in the saddle, who's been in good form since he's returned back from Singapore. So really nice first race, and hopefully we can get off to a good start with the Standoff, obviously at nice odds to kick us off. Moving on to race number 2, it's 2,600 metre race. It's the Banjo Patterson final, and looking at the speed map here, I'd say Sasco will find the top. That's almost a given. Dale Harold will probably just in behind it. I'd say Mr. Monaco might even go up and challenge the lead. We've seen him go towards the front a couple of times before. And Ventura Storm will be interesting to see what he does after he obviously went and had his first jumps to burn. He won that race there. He was close enough to the speed there, so he might tuck in behind them, I'd suggest. But I can see Sasco finding the lead here. Look, I think I've got to go with the horses that are in form, and off that last start performance, I think Chapada can get the better of Lord Belvedere here. I was pretty keen on Lord Belvedere last start, and I didn't have it in my tips. I was really disappointed because I did think to myself that horse would really improve coming onto a soft track off the sort of the heavier tracks, and it improved immensely and got the better of Chapada. I think Chapada will get the better of him here this time, though. Last start, they got that good weight swing this time round. Chapada only goes up half a kilo from last start, whereas Lord Belvedere goes up from 57 to 59.5. So it's a 2 kilo weight swing in the favour of Chapada, and I think that might see him get the better of Lord Belvedere. So I'm going to have Chapada on top ahead of Lord Belvedere for second. I think they are the two to beat. The market reflects that. If a third, Sasco, look, if he's able to get a good enough time in the lead, he can run well. He's obviously better on a heavier track, so the more rain, the better for him. But I do still think he can run well enough. He didn't really have the measure of these 2 horses last start, so I don't think he can get the better of him this time. But I definitely suggest that he can still run well. He'll be up on speed. We know he runs well at Flemington as well. He's had a couple of wins at the track, so he could definitely run a good race. I don't know if he can overturn the 2 leaders, though. The 2 toppies in the market. The other one that I do think is just a bit over the odds is number 1, Dal Harold. On his day, he could be a really good horse, and he's a horse that doesn't mind a wet track. He's had 3 starts on a soft track for a win and a placing. He was obviously ran first up in the Swan Hill Cup over 600 metres. Was not his ideal distance range. He comes into this now off a bit of a freshen up. First up, he's now second up now off the back of that. So that run was back at the start of June, so he's had a couple of weeks off. And he comes in this second up. I think he can run a much better race. $41 as well over the odds. He does have to carry a lot of weight, but he has the class where he could run a good enough race. So I think 41's is a bit overs. So if you want to have something each way on him, I definitely wouldn't say no to that. The other horse that I think is a bit of overs is number 8, Mr. Monaco. Now, he was beaten last start on the Pakenham Synthetic race. That, of course, was in a benchmark 64. So massive step up in grade for him, but he was beaten by Diamonds and Bubbles there. He carried 65 on that occasion. Prior to that, he won brilliantly in a benchmark 64, won by 5 lengths on that occasion. So, look, I do think he's stepping up in grade, but the fact he gets that massive weight drop and he's competitive, he doesn't often run a bad race, so he is one that could run a place. He could be in the placings potentially. But look, I'm pretty keen to play Japarta ahead of Lord Belvedere. I think that's the right form line to bring into this race. So I've got those two on top ahead of Sasco in the third, in the fourth, number 1, Dal Harold. Moving on to race number 3 now. It's the Taj Rossi final over 1,600 metres for the 2-year-olds. And look at the speed map here. I'd suggest that Insaf, Confrontational, Navarrez, Burley Boy will probably be up towards the pace. So looks to be a decent amount of speed in this sort of race here. And now, look, I'm very keen on this horse here, number 1, Cherry Tortoni. I remember seeing its first up run on debut at Sale, and it was an absolutely terrific performance. I was extremely keen on it at the start after at Flemington, and really took care of him very nicely at the 60.5 kilos. Has to carry 61 here. Does step up to now to the 1,600 metres, but I think from what we've seen so far, he's got a lot of ability. He obviously has some of the horses he's beaten have since come out and run really well. So, look, he's got a lot of ability, and real interesting thing with Cherry Tortoni is that the form round he's been really good as well. From that Sale maiden form, I knew that was going to be a good form race when I saw it. Obviously, we've seen the likes of Saltpeter, who won last week at Caulfield, albeit on a bit of a leader bias track, so the track perhaps played in its favour, but it still did win nonetheless, and you've got to respect the good form. So I think Cherry Tortoni is really hard to beat. $2.80 is not going to last very long, so if you are watching this and you're pretty keen on playing Cherry Tortoni like I am, I'd be getting on right now, because I think by Saturday, albeit there will be some scratchings, so I'd suggest it won't be at 280 for very long. So I think we can get a good price if we can go at it now. So it goes on top for me. It have number 7, Burley Boy, who I really liked its run last start behind Cherry Tortoni. It really did get to the line nicely under Craig Williams, and obviously gets a good weight swing on Cherry Tortoni this time around. Goes from 59 down to 56.5, whereas so Cherry Tortoni goes up half a kilo, Burley Boy comes down 2.5. So I do think this horse can run well, and perhaps could be a big danger to the favourite at the $11. So I think it's going to go in for second for me. In for third, number 11, Toys on Fire, has been around some good form line races. Last start, third behind Mystique Falcon and Derive. Really did come to line nicely there. It's a horse that performs on a wet track, so I think this horse got a good chance. And like I just mentioned, in that same race, I've obviously got to make mention of the winner who's in this race here, number 5, Mystique Falcon, who did win that race, holding off Derive and Toys on Fire. Now, Derive was finished second yesterday at Sandown, so the form has been all right, and finished second behind a horse in Asafa who looks really, really good. So I think that form will be really good as well. It looks a really smart horse. So I think Derive finishing second of that boosts a little bit into the chances of Mystic Falcon and also Toys on Fire in a race like this. But look, pretty keen on Cherry Tortoni just because it carried the 6.5 last start, handled it fine, so I think it can run well again, and it'll be too good for these once again. Just look to have a bit on them last start. And obviously some of these other ones that are coming in with different form lines, I just don't think they quite match up to Cherry Tortoni. So $2.80, really good price. I'll be getting on now if you're pretty keen on it, because I don't think it'll last very long. Number 7, Burley Boy, though, I'll be interested to see, because if that horse does drift out in the market, I probably will have something each way on it, just with that weight swing down, and obviously being first up off a bit of a break, I think it can bounce back and run an even stronger race this time round. In for third, number 11, Toys on Fire. In for fourth, number 5, Mystique Falcon. Other chances in the race, I think number 2, Navarrez, does have a chance. Obviously, Dwayne Dunn in the saddle. Interestingly, Craig Williams rode this horse last start. He's jumped off. He's sort of stuck with Burley Boy. So I'm not sure what that does for the chance of Narvaez. But this horse does have a bit of ability, and that last start performance was coming, and it was a nice win as well. The form round has been really good, and it's had 3 starts on a soft track for a win and 2 placings. So for an each-way proposition, he's not too bad either. And Confrontational probably also has a bit of a chance as well after a last start third at Bendigo behind Narvaez, so he can also run well enough as well. But I'm pretty keen on my top 4 in that race. I think they're the ones to beat, especially Cherry Tortoni on top. Moving on to race number 4 on the program now, and it's the 2,500 metre Mahogany Challenge Final. And look at the speed map here for the 3-year-olds. I'd suggest that looks as though that Namadou will probably find the top. I'd say Silence He'll Deliver will probably roll up and be up close to the speed, and Yoan Do will probably be up there as well. But not a whole lot of pace in the race. I think Namadou will be able to lead and dictate the race now. Persan's been very, very good, and obviously comes in this race now as a really strong favourite. I'm going to be against him though, because I just think that he goes up 3.5 kilos from his last start performance, where he ran at 56, now carries 59.5. He obviously got to step up in distance now. He goes from 2,000 up to 2,500. I think he can handle it, just with the way he's been getting to the line last couple starts. Although he did get tired in his last start a little bit when Right came back at him. So I'm interested to see if he can run out the distance. And as such, I don't think I can take 12:20. I think I'd rather go with number 4, Signs to Deliver, with Damien Oliver in the saddle. Now, this horse has been so frustrating for anyone that's followed him, and myself included. Since the St. Ledger, I've followed him every start since, and he has been in seemingly weaker races, but he just has always not got the job done. Now, that run straight after the St. Ledger was in a benchmark 58. He finished second behind Grey Khan there by 0.1 of a length. He was a $1.65 favourite on that occasion, carried 61 kilos. Then the start after, he was beaten by Tigger Royale, who admittedly that form line race has been really good. Yulon Captain has come out and run well as well. So that was a good form race, and it was benchmark 68. And on that occasion, he carried 58. And then last start, he finished second again behind High Emotion. But I think High Emotion isn't too bad either. That was a benchmark 78. So he is progressively finding the mark and getting around in the placing. So I think that at $3.60 he can run well here again. And it's a horse that we know he can get this distance, because the last couple of starts he has been running at this distance range. So I think I'd rather go with him over Persan. So he goes on top for me, ahead of Persan for second, who, like I said, no knock, is in terrific form, and I'm 100% confident he'll be in the top 3. So if you are keen to play Persan, obviously a lot of the bookmakers have the second or third, run second or third, get the bonus bet. So if that is the case, you can definitely probably take him with a bit of confidence, really, I'd suggest, because I don't think he will miss a top 3 placing from what I've seen. Number 3, Blue Ocean, who I was keen on last start and was a little bit disappointed with his run, but I think he can bounce back, and he obviously is being sided by Ocean Park, and I think out of a quizzical, he can get this type of distance range. I think he's been looking for the 2,500 metres, so he could improve off his last start performance at the $11, so he goes in for third. And then in for fourth, it was a little bit of a toss-up for me then. I think it did drop off a little bit outside of those horses, but I did go with number 2, Translator, who obviously ran in that Persan race last start. It's going to have to improve immensely off of that, but prior to that was in good form. Did finish third, in fact, behind Right You Are and Liberate. So it just shows that maybe just had a bit of a bad performance last time out, and he could run much better this time around. So recap the numbers for me. I'm keen on number 4, Signs to Deliver on top, ahead of number 1, Persan in for second, in for third, number 3, Blue Ocean, and in for fourth, number 2, Translator. Moving on to race number 5 now. It's the Vic Sprint Series final over 1,200 metres. Look at the speed map for this race here. I'd suggest that Tavasan will find the top with Great Again. That'd be the two that'll probably pair out and take on the speed. Snitzcraft probably sit just in behind them, as well as Milwaukee, and Melody Style will be probably the other one that'll be up towards the pace as well. Looking for this race here, I'm pretty keen to do a 2 bet play here. I'm going to have Great Again on top here. I think it can bounce back off its last up performance at Moonee Valley. Now, I was really keen on it that day, made it my best bet. It got well back in the field, and in the end that day, nothing really came on from the back at Moonee Valley, so I'm willing to forgive that performance. Comes back to Flemington, obviously did win 2 starts back here at Flemington on a heavy track, and held off Rich Charm on that occasion, so does have to carry 59, but Lindsay Smith's stable's on fire. Rocker Rod's in good form as well in the saddles, as I mentioned earlier, since returning from Singapore. It's fantastic to have him back. He is a very good wet tracker as well, and I think $8.50 to $2.80 will see a much improved form from him. So he goes on top for me, third up here. I think there's so many claims for him, so he's going to be the one that goes on top for me. Ahead of number 3, Rich Charm, who's the other one I want to play. I think that he was obviously absolutely immense last start. I was pretty keen on him again after I backed him, had him first up when he finished second to Great Again on the heavy track at Flemington. He absolutely roared home at 31 to 1, and he just missed out by a nose, unfortunately, for anyone that followed me in with him. And obviously, it was quite stoked at the place, but it was absolutely spewing. He didn't win on the line. But then he went back to 1100 last start on the soft track of Flemington. He just never got any galloping room. I had him on top, but I didn't get to do my preview last week. I would have mentioned that I was concerned with that inside barrier because he's a horse that likes to get to the outside and sort of really pick them up and wind down the outside fence at Flemington. And I do think he could get the chance to do that this time around from barrier number 7. So he draws much better, and he'll probably come with grade again once again. So we'll probably see a similar battle last time they met 2 starts ago. And I think Rich Charm can run well enough again here. So they're the two that I'm really keen on to be playing. Now, in for third, I've got number 7, Tavisan, who is in good form. Was third last time out in that same race that I mentioned that Great Again was in. Was beaten by Ashwell and Morrissey on that occasion. Prior to that, won really well at Caulfield as well. So I think this horse can run well again, but $5 probably is a little bit on the short side for me. I probably would be more keen if it was a bit higher up in the odds, but I do think it still has a bit of a chance. And the other horse that I am keen on, you got to have Milwaukee in your numbers, I guess, don't you? He's a straight track specialist. He was disappointing. He's been disappointing the last 2 starts, though, so I'm not sure if what's to go with him now, whether these wet tracks have stumped him a little bit, but he comes back up to 1200 metres. You've got to have him in the chances. No, I am someone also has a good chance. Obviously, it was a good winner last time up the straight at Flemington, so you've got to respect that he held off Brazado on that occasion. So I think he can run well as well, the favourite. And Stitzcraft is the other one who obviously made big improvements last time when he finished second to Brazado, and obviously you can tie up those form lines with I am someone as well with Snitzcraft. But look, very open race, but I am keen to go with Great Again on top as my number 1 selection. But I'm also going to be probably playing number 3, Rich Charm. I think they're the two that are the hardest to beat in the race. So I think, and they have the right form lines to be winning this type of race, and obviously got a lot of upside with them as well. So they're the two that I'm having on top. Ahead of number 7, Tavastan for third, and for fourth, number 5, Milwaukee. Moving on to race number 6 now, and it's the Jim Beam Leilani Series final. Look at the speed map here for this race. So I'd suggest that obviously the start of the quaddy as well. Honey Esprit and River Jewel probably the 2 front runners in the race. And then I'd suggest that Music Bay might be up towards the speed. Something Silver will probably roll up as well. But look, I think that River Jewel and Honey Esprit will pair off and find the front and look to dictate the terms. And one of those leads I am pretty keen on as well. And it is number 8, River Jewel, who had 2 seconds so far this preparation. Last start was obviously just last week at Caulfield, finished second to She's a Thief. I thought that was a good run there, and I think it can run well here again off the 7-day backup. I really like that. Jamie Carr in the saddle, $6.50 is a good price as well. It is a horse that doesn't run too well here at the track, however, and does prefer to be running at the 1200 metres compared to the 1400, but just the fact that it is in good form, I think it can run well enough, especially being up on the pace with not a lot of speed in the race. So I'm going to have River Jewel on top. Ahead of number 3, King's Brook, who ran really well last start. I was pretty keen on it, finished second on that occasion, was really coming late at Great Duchess. Does go up 3 kilos, and Great Duchess goes up 3.5. So it does get a little slight weight swing on Great Duchess, and I think that might be enough to see it finish ahead of it. But in saying that, I've got to have Great Duchess in the numbers in for third. Do think it's in great form. The last couple of wins have been impressive, and obviously he has to carry the weight this time around, but you've got to respect winning form. So the fact it's $8.50 on in the case has been in winning form is probably well over the odds. Number 5, La Tigressa, goes in for fourth. Now, this horse has been extremely well backed. I mean, this horse opened up about $8 and it's now sitting at $4.60. So there has been some good support for it. I'm a bit surprised at it, really, because soft track form isn't great from this horse. I do think if we get the firmer track, though, he can run well, and that's why I've got him in my top 4, and I'll probably bump him up if we get that track upgrade as well. So he can run well. He comes in this third up, which but I thought he was disappointing last time. I mean, he can make a bit of a forgiveness at being at Moonee Valley on that occasion. But prior to that, obviously finished behind River Jewel. So meets River Jewel here again. He's at 460 and River Jewel's at $6.50. So I think I just had to go River Jewel on top. But La Tigressa, I've got to respect the market move and the fact that if we do get that drying track, he will run a better race. So recap the numbers for me. I'm keen on about River Jewel off the 7-day backup. I think it's going to be hard to beat, and obviously being on speed, being able to dictate the terms. Number 3, Kingsbrook goes in for second. In for third, number 1, Great Duchess, and in for fourth, number 5, La Tigressa. I do think that the other horse, that if the track dries out, Snogging will come right into it. So keep an eye on the track conditions over the next day or two. If we do get that track upgrade, then Snogging definitely has a chance. So it'll probably bump up my numbers if I get any scratchings. And also So You Swing, who I thought was a little bit disappointing last start, but it is a horse, again, if the track dries out as well, I think we'll see an improved performance from it as well. So keep an eye out for that. Moving on to race number 7, it's the Silver Bowl Series final over the 1,600 metres. Big field here as well, 17 currently in the field. Obviously, a couple of those are emergencies, so we'll see that reduce a little bit, but I still suspect that we'll get a nice big field for this race here. But look at the speed map, I'd say Smoke Bomb will fire in the front and try to do what I did at Moody Valley last start, lead all the way. Garam Pereira out of the... we'll try that again. Garam Pero out of barrier number 7 will probably get towards the front as well. Barossa Kiss from barrier number 10, I think will be towards the front. Dance Ready. And also Charlize usually likes to be up on the speed as well. So it looks to be a decent amount of tempo and should set up nicely for an even race in the 1,600 metre race here. Look, I'm very keen to go with a horse here called number 4, Salika, at the $12. I think it's really good odds. This is a horse that obviously went into... went close to Group 2 level, and then obviously went into the Group 1 and finished behind Toffee Tongue. That, of course, was in the Oaks. So, look, she's got her fair share of ability, and she went from the Oaks at 2,000 metres down to the 1,200 behind Calcani Royale and Felicia at Mooney Valley. Couldn't make any ground from the back that day, so you can forgive that. And obviously, being over 1,200, and we saw a really improved performance from her last start, and that was last week behind Mystery Shot and Splinter on the grass. So she was good there on that occasion. I think that's really good form because I've been tipping a couple of horses that are around Mystery Shot the last sort of couple of days, including one today at Cranbourne. So if you haven't already looked at my tips today, go and have a look at those. My best bet on that program comes from form around Mystery Shot. And obviously, Spinner on the Grass goes around low in the program, so a little bit of a hint there. I might be pretty keen on it as well. I think Salika now stepping up to the 600 metres. We'll see an improved performance from her, and I think she'd be hard to beat. So I think $12 is a good price about her. She goes on top for me. And of number 3, Walking Flying, who's been really good form the last couple of starts and been really handling her opposition nicely. Last start on the Sandown, she was very good on the heavy track. Prior to that at Sale, she rounded them up over 700 metres and won that one nicely on a good track. Now, obviously, before that, she was running over at Morphettville as well. But the interesting thing with her is, obviously, if it's a soft track, we've had 4 starts. She had 4 starts on a soft track for no wins and no placings. So that is a bit of a query for me. But I do think the track will dry out. At the moment, it's sunny outside again. So we've had a couple of days in a row now without rain. So we could potentially get that track upgrade. And if we do, this filly will come right into it. So she goes in for second. And then in for third, look, I've got to go Smoke Bomb. He's a horse that's in form. Obviously, he's been leading all the way. I think his last couple of starts have been able to dictate him when he's won them. He's obviously won one at Moody Valley where he was a leader. You wanted to be on the speed that day. And then he won at Cranbourne 2 starts prior to that. And that was also a day where he wanted to be on the speed as well. So while Smoke Bomb's got ability, he's got winning form, I do think that he has had the favours when he has won. So I am a little bit... I've got a little bit of an asterisk next to that there. But the other horse that I think's got a good chance in the race is number 7, Charlize, who has been around the mark the last couple of starts, been getting real close. Last start, it was a third behind Grandiflora and Quantum Mechanic. Grandiflora came out yesterday at Sandown and really won well again. So I think that's a good form line to follow with Charlize. And obviously before that, she was... around the likes of, she finished second at Oriental Lily on a heavy track, finished second to Liberate, who obviously came out then and ran well subsequent after that. So Charlotte's been around good form lines. I think she can run well. Other horses in the race that I think can run a good race is Cabinho, who has been always had a bit of ability. So was struggling to get his maiden win, but then he got it last time out at Seymour, and he won it quite nicely with Oliver in the saddle. And Ollie sticks on, which is a good sign, because when a top jockey rides those maidens, then they come into a stronger race. They can often go on to a better chance, but he has stuck with it. So I do like that he's going to be staying on for the ride. So he's got a chance. Grinzinger Ali, of course, comes from the fourth last start behind Right You Are, and Liberate has had a bit of a freshen up since then. That run was back in the 30th of May. So it's had a bit of a freshen up since then, and it is a horse that is very good on a soft track. So if we stick to these surfaces, Grinzi Ali also has a bit of a chance in the race. And Garin Pereiro is a horse that I think has a bit of upside as well. I'll be interested to see how he can run, obviously coming off the back of that third behind Smoke Bomb last start. So, look, really open race, and the market suggests that with the favourite being Smoke Bomb at $7. But, look, I'm keen to go Salika at $12 here, so she goes on top for me. Ahead of in for second, I've got number 3, Walking Flying. In for third, number 2, Smoke Bomb. And in for fourth, number 7, Charlize. Moving on to race number 8, and it's the Winter Championship final over the 6,800 metres. Look at the speed map for this race here. It suggests that probably Holbein will find the top and look to lead all the way again. Coney will go up there with it, as will Romancer and Shot of Irish. So I think they're the 4 speed plays in the race, in race number 8. But look, this was a tough race here. This was probably the toughest one of the day for me. Look, if Noble Boy gets in, I'm going to be keen to have a go at him. I think he's been racing good form the last couple of starts, been on heavy track. He was very good last start behind True Detective and Trumbull. Trumbull's come out and won last week again at Randwick, so the form is good around that type of race. And Noble Boy, I think, has just got a bit of upside improvement. Claire Cunningham obviously brings him down here, probably with the thought that maybe we're going to have the drier track in comparison to Randwick, which obviously at this stage is a heavy track. So, look, I think Noble Boy can run well, and surprised it's drifted out the market a little bit in a way. It's $10 out of 13. I think he's got a lot of. He's obviously got a lot of X factor and ability. I think he's starting to put it together now for Claire Cunningham, and he can definitely run a good race here. He's $13, so he goes on top for me. Ahead of I'm going to go with number 1, Reykjavik, in for second. I'm worried for a few factors. Outside barrier, 62 kilos, but in saying that, he is very good at Flemington. He's had 6 starts to the track for 3 wins and 2 placings, and at the distance and track and distance, he's had 3 starts for 2 wins and a placing. So I think he'll bounce back off his last start performance. He was never really favoured at Moonee Valley last start. Obviously, didn't really want to be back in the field there. He was back a bit. He comes back to Flemington. I think we can see a return performance to the one that he showed 2 starts prior, where he made a mess of him, including Shot of Irish. So he's $18, and Shot of Irish is at 6. And obviously, we know last time they met, he made an absolute mess of Shot of Irish, so I think he's well over the odds. So just worried about the 62 kilos and obviously that wide barrier that he has to overcome. But if he can do that, $18 is well over the odds. So you can definitely have an each way go, because he's at a price where it is probably worth risking him potentially coming into the race from barrier number 18. So he goes in for second. In the third, I've got number 5, Planciel, who obviously got the better of Shot of Irish last time out, narrowly in a protest. Just managed to hold on there. I was, one of those punters who wasn't too happy about the decision personally, because obviously I was on Shot of Irish, and it was beaten by a nose on the line. And sorry, it was as a dead heat on that occasion. My mistake. They did dead heat, but obviously then Billy Egan got hit with a banner on the whip, using the overuse of the whip in that race. So that was a little bit disappointing, because I guess that's something that they might have to look at, because I mean, from a punting perspective, it's just, it's not fair, really, is it? I mean, those who back Shot of Irish should win, and through the fact that Billy Egan, perhaps overusing the whip, just got it that little extra, 0.1 of a length to get it onto the level terms. So anyway, that's something that isn't really my forte. That we leave that up to the stewards and obviously Race Victoria and the governing bodies of racing, so they are the ones to deal with that. But that's just my personal opinion. Look, Shot of Irish, I think is a horse that's, whenever it's on a wet track, you've got to give him a good chance. So I'm going to put him in my numbers again. I've got him out of my top 3, but look, he doesn't often miss a placing. So he's a good horse to back each way, and he's at those each way odds again. So he comes in for 4th for me. Other horses I think have a chance in the race is number 16, Victoria Star, at the $16. Is a horse that, if we get that soft track, he's going to go right up my numbers. I'm not sure if the track will dry out or not. He's obviously down in the weights. He carries 56 kilos. He comes out from a third last time out behind Heptagon. And so obviously Heptagon goes around in this race at the $6. So he's definitely can get the better of Heptagon if we get that wet track. So he goes in for, he's not my top 4, but I do give him a good chance, and especially if we get a bit of rain over the next couple of days. I'm not sure if that'll happen, but we could potentially, you never know. And Grey Line's another one I want to make a mention of. I think first up here could just run a bold race. I'm not sure what John Allen will do with him, but at 100 to 1, I just think that he's well over the odds here. He does have a lot of class, and Matt Smith often has these horses that pop up when you think that, they're going to be going towards 2,000 plus, and they pop up in a race like this over 600 and run a good race. So he could run well enough at the 100 to 1. And Heptagon's the other one that I'm pretty keen on as well, obviously in really good form, so you can't discount him. But look, I'm going to go with number 17, Noble Boy. I just think that the fact that Claire Cunningham's brought down to Victoria with the potential having the firm track, I think is a good positive, and he's got a lot of X factor and upside, and I think he's getting close to that win. So he's going on top for me. Ahead of number 1, Reykjavik in for second, in for third, number 5, Plenciel, and in for fourth, number 8, Shot of Irish. Now moving on to the final race of the card, race number 9. Look at it's a 1400 metre race, Rivet Series final. Look at the speed map for this race here. I'd suggest that Ocean Miss will probably find the top, with Liali will be up there as well, pressing on. Vista Bell will probably be towards the speed, as well as Paul's Regret. And Power Boom might also push forward, as well as Brazen Song. But I'd say that the leaders will be Ocean Miss and Liali. They're probably the ones that will be on the pace, leading them up. Now, look, I'm keen on Splendor on the Grass here, because this horse comes off a 7-day backup from last start at Caulfield. And in that race there, obviously, it wasn't a day where you want to be at the back. This was one of the horses on the day that really made a stack of ground from back in the field. It was a real eye-catching run. And for me, on a day where not a lot of them made ground from the back, he's got to be a really good chance here, because he did so, and he ran. She ran some really good sectionals in the race as well. So she goes on top for me at the $4.50 at $9.90 to place. I thought her performance was impressive. 7-day backup's a nice thing for me, and obviously I think the form will stand up really well that race as well. So she goes on top ahead of number 7, Cordilla, who is a lightly raced 3-year-old filly for Danny O'Brien, and Damien Oliver's in the saddle. Now, this horse has got a stack of ability. We saw that last start where it won well as Die 85 favourite, just held off Soda Light there. Prior to that, finished third behind Jolly Sailor. We know how good Jolly Sailor's been, obviously now gone off to Hong Kong, like a lot of our promising 3-year-olds, which has been a little bit disappointing for Australian racing, but in a way it's also good, because we know now that the Australian horses are so highly rated on international the scales, especially in Asia, that we've got a lot of them that are picking up some of our horses, which is what we do like to see in a way, because they are watching our race and they rate our horses. So, and it's obviously great for the owners, because they get a nice payday out of it. So the fact that Cordilla finished third, only point over length off Jolly Sailor, I think rates it up really nicely here. Has to overcome barrier 16, but I think if it can do that, it can run well. Ocean Miss is a horse that I'm really, really keen on. $12 is a massively over the odds. This horse was really good last start, holding off the Executioner. The Executioner since come out and won again, so subsequent form really good. I thought that was a really nice win on that occasion over 1,300. I didn't think that she'd be able to, I was keen on her, but I didn't through class, but I didn't think that she'd win over 1,300, because I thought it'd be too short. Now she steps out to 1,400 here, so I think she wants further. But she obviously showed last start that she's not. She can still win in these type of shorter races, and I think she can run well here at $12. She's over the odds, especially when she's going to be on the speed dictating the terms. And number 9, Quantum Mechanic, goes in for fourth. Another horse who I think has got a really good chance here. A horse that I've been following for a while, since the South Australia Racing Carnival. Since she's come back here, she's been really good. She finished second at Grand Flora last time out, as I mentioned earlier in the video. Obviously, that form stood up really well, with Grand Flora winning well again yesterday. Prior to that, finished third to Oriental Lily and Charlize. Now we can see how Charlize will go. So there's a lot of form around Quantum Mechanic, where we can sort of get a guide going to the last race on how good that form is, and potentially we might see a bit of money go for it. Might want to have a bit of a spec each way on it. So other horses in the chances that are in the chances, I think, in this race, Windfall with Bennett Mallam and Henry O'Dwyer. Finished third last time out to Dire Quinn and Brazen Song. I thought it made really good ground on that occasion. And obviously, those horses are in this race as well, Brazen Song and Dire Quinn. So they probably all have that chance coming out of that same form line. Liali has a 7-day backup, and obviously Beauty Bolt comes in this off a second last up on Queen Ladiva, and has had a bit of a freshen up since then. But look, pretty keen on Splendor on the Grass on top. So I've got it on top ahead of number 7, Cordilla, and for second, and for third, number 6, Ocean Miss, and then for fourth, number 9, Quantum Mechanic. Now moving on to my best bets of the program. All right, so the best bets of the program for me, race number 3, number 1, Cherry Tortoni. I think it's going to be really hard to beat. Like I mentioned earlier in the video, I think that the $2.80 won't last very long, so it's one of my best bets of the program. Race number 3, number 1, Cherry Tortoni. Then in the final race of the card, race number 9, number 1, Splendor on the Grass at $4.50, so a nice price for a best bet there. I think it's got a really good chance to win. My best value plays, there was quite a lot, because obviously I have gone with a bit of value in this program here, but I think in race number 1, number 3, Standoff at $9 $8.50. Very keen on it. Could have put it as one of my best bets. I am really confident on its chances. So race number 1, number 3 standoff as one of my best value bets of the program. And the other one that I was pretty keen on to go each way comes in race number 5, and it's number 1, Great Again at the $8.50 and $2.80. I think a bounce back coming back to Flemington as well. So good luck if you're playing on Saturday at Flemington, of course. Really looking forward to it. It's a pleasure to be back with you guys again. Obviously, leave your comments down below. As always, give this video a like, subscribe if you're new here. I would really appreciate the support. Go check out my social media pages at c.lane_racing tips on Instagram and c.lane space racing tips on Facebook. So go and check me out on those social media platforms where I'll be posting all these tips as well as quaddie selections, and also obviously post daily every single day with tips. So good luck if you're playing on Saturday. Obviously, hopefully we find plenty of winners once again. Really a pleasure to be back here, and obviously keep an eye out. Got my preview coming up after this of round week, so stay tuned for that. So thanks for tuning in, and obviously good luck on the punt on Saturday, and enjoy the top racing that we're going to have ahead of us.